In the next few minutes, you are about to witness a disturbing journey into the heart of a legend that has terrified generations. A legend built on blood, silence, and an unspeakable truth that has remained buried for decades. And in this video you will discover the hidden origin of Jason Voorhees, the chilling events that shaped his existence, the forgotten details that no film ever dared to reveal, and the horrifying revelation that changes everything, turning the story you thought you knew into something far darker, far more tragic, and far more real than anyone ever imagined. The story begins long before the infamous lake became a graveyard of screams and shadows, long before the hockey mask became a symbol of unstoppable brutality, because Jason's true darkness didn't start with violence, but with abandonment, fear, and a place that was supposed to protect children but instead created monsters by ignoring the cries of the innocent. He was a child born into a world that rejected him before he could even understand the meaning of cruelty, a world that labeled him broken and unworthy, and as he grew his days were shaped by fear, laughter that wasn't, friendly stares that weren't, compassionate, and a silence that hurt more than any wound. At Camp Crystal Lake, the sunlit forest hid more than trees and quiet trails, because beneath the surface of that peaceful retreat beat a secret rhythm of negligence, whispers of cruelty, and an unspoken truth about what happened when adults stopped watching and children were left alone with their fear. Jason, trapped in a body that moved differently and a mind that processed the world in ways no one cared to understand, became easy prey, an invisible ghost wandering through a place full of predators disguised as caretakers and campers who treated him as less than human, as if he was something strange, something to push away, something to laugh at, something to torment. It was not a single moment of violence that defined his fate, but a series of small cruelties that built a storm inside him, a storm that one day would grow strong enough to drown anyone who dared to stand in its path. And yet the adults who should have protected him remained distant, distracted, careless, closing their eyes to his suffering until tragedy finally came, not as a shocking supernatural curse, but as the cold result of abandonment. On that day when Jason slipped beneath the surface of the lake, the water swallowed not just his body, but every hope he ever had of being seen, understood, or loved, and the silence that followed was not the silence of peace, but the silence of guilt, lies, and fear of responsibility. The camp's caretakers buried the truth in hurried explanations that shifted blame and erased accountability, creating a legend that grew more twisted with each passing year, a legend that conveniently hid the cruelty of those who failed him and replaced it with a story of a mysterious accident, a tragic incident, an unfortunate event no one could have predicted. The truth was far worse, because Jason didn't just drown in water, he drowned in neglect, in indifference, in the inability of others to recognize his humanity, and that drowning carved something raw and unrelenting into his spirit. As years passed, the lake grew darker. Not because of nature, but because guilt has a way of clinging to the land, seeping into the soil and turning innocent places into haunted monuments of what people refuse to admit. And Camp Crystal Lake became such a place, a quiet prison for those unresolved sins, a location where time felt stuck, where shadows whispered tales to the wind, and where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred in a suffocating stillness. Jason, transformed by pain and driven by something beyond mortal comprehension, rose from that place, not just as a vengeful figure of terror, but as a living reminder of what happens when the world fails the vulnerable and turns its back on a suffering soul. His rampage across decades, as terrifying and violent as it became, was never born from pure evil, but from a deep and twisted yearning for justice, a distorted attempt to reclaim what he was denied. And every step he took through the woods echoed with the memories of a child who once begged to be noticed, to be understood, to be saved. The mask he eventually wore was not merely a tool of intimidation, but a symbol of how the world prefers to hide what it fears rather than confront the truth. And each time he returned, stronger and more relentless, he reminded the world that you cannot bury guilt without consequences, because guilt grows roots, and roots always rise. In this video, as you explore the eerie transformation that shaped Jason's existence, you will learn the hidden motivations behind his monstrous persistence, the overlooked psychological trauma that built the foundation of his rage, the supernatural elements that may have intertwined with his suffering, and the reason why his story continues to terrify generation after generation. You will uncover the forgotten evidence that suggests the curse of Crystal Lake was not an accident, but a chain reaction of human negligence, emotional torment, and spiritual imbalance. And as you move through this chilling narrative, you will see how the darkest monsters are not born, they are created, molded by the world's failure to protect the weak. By the end of this journey, Jason Voorhees becomes more than just a horror icon. He becomes a tragic reminder of consequences unspoken, a symbol of torment transformed into unstoppable force, and a haunting question about how many tragedies in our own world grow from seeds of silence, cruelty, and neglect. His legend is terrifying not simply because of his brutality, but because of the uncomfortable truth beneath it, that every monster has an origin. Every nightmare has a beginning, and every ghost was once a living soul, ignored until darkness became the only language it understood. Thank you for watching this deep and chilling exploration of Jason's true dark story, and if you want more terrifying legends, emotional narratives, and haunting mysteries, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment sharing your theories, and share this video with other horror fans so the darkness of Crystal Lake can spread across the multiverse of the internet.